Hi, Isaac.
Hello.
Hi, there you go. I can hear you now. See you. You're all good. And you're in
Great.
for Lauren tonight, right?
I am. Yep.
Lucky you. Okay, great. Thank you.
You bet.
Right, Tushar.
Hey, David.
Great. I can hear you. I can see you. Your logo is good.
Okay.
You're good to go.
Sounds good. I can't see any of I can only see you on the right-hand side. Is that?
No, we should. There's quite a few of us here already. If you click on your icon along the top of the bar, the two icons, or the grid view, show grid view, should do it for you.
All right, give me one second.
Hi, Rogerio.
Hey, David.
Hi, Katrina.
Is it right?
Yep, you're all good to go, Rogerio.
Thanks.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Katrina, and I can see you, and you're good to go also.
Okay, great, thanks.
Okay, see you in a bit.
Thanks, David. I'm good now too. With my view. Thank you. I'll see you in a bit.
Oh, Isaac, You want to check your background? You want to flip it? It's showing opposite to us as the viewers.
I'll do my best. I'll do my best.
You're not the only, we've all been through this. Hi, Michael.
Hi, David. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
Okay.
Okay, you're all good. I can hear you. I can see you. Your logo's good. So you're good to go.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, see you in a bit. Okay, that's good, Isaac. You're good to go. That works.
Okay, great.
David, good evening. I'm here just as the applicant's rep on item 10B in case the commission has any questions for us on our continuance request this evening.
Okay, great. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, Stacy.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good, thanks. Can you hear and see me okay? Is my
I
logo
can hear
good?
and see you, and you need to flip your logo.
Why does it keep doing that? Okay, hold on.
See, Isaac, you're not the only one.
Okay, is that better?
That's better.
Great, thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome. See you in a bit.
David?
Yes, Manny.
Hey, David. I think we have a few folks who want to make a public comment on this item, but I see them in the panel in the participants list. If they wanted to make a public comment, should they hang up and call in, or could they make their public comment from the Zoom?
No, they have to actually call in to make their public comment.
Okay. Yes, I think there's 3 people, I believe, that want to make a public comment. Is it Jason, Roxanne, and Ryan? I think.
Yeah, I already have them in the queue.
Okay, great.
And
Okay.
they're on the phone, so they're ready to go when I call on them.
Oh, great. Okay, thank you so much.
So I already have them, so I think they're already good to go.
Oh, great. Just wanted to confirm that. Thank you so much.
Okay, sure, you're welcome.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
Sorry, this is Jason. So if I want to speak, do I have to call a different number, or is this the right number to be on?
I'm sorry, say that again?
I said, this is Jason. And if I want to speak, is this the right number to be on, or should I call a different number?
No, you're exactly where you need to be.
All right, perfect. And
Yeah,
how do
and
I mute
as
myself?
soon as we start the proceedings, you'll be able to hear everything. And you can also watch it live stream if you want on City Channel 10.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Sure, you're welcome.
Good evening, David.
Hi, Lynn. Where are you? There you are. Okay. Yeah, if I can have all the commissioners on screen, please. It is 6:30, Chair. I've been advised that we are live on all social media platforms as well as City Channel 10, so we are good to go when you call the meeting.
Thank you, David. With that, I will call to order this regularly scheduled meeting of the West Hollywood City Planning Commission. It is Thursday, August 19th at 6:30 p.m. Before we begin, I would like to introduce Isaac Rosen. Isaac, wave your hand somewhere. He is going to be our substitute city attorney for the day. Ms. Langer is unavailable, so he's got some rather large shoes to step into. But welcome, Isaac. And with that, I'd like to ask for us to pledge of allegiance. And can I ask Commissioner Caballero to lead us in the pledge?
Okay, hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner. Item 3, David, would you please call the roll?
Thank you. Good evening, commissioners. Commissioner Vinson,
Here.
Commissioner Thomas,
Here.
Commissioner Lombardi,
Here.
Commissioner Dutta,
Here.
Commissioner Carvalero,
Here.
Vice Chair Jones,
Here.
Chair Hoopengarner,
Here.
and we have a full quorum too.
And with that, I forgot to read our magic song sheet. So with that, this meeting is being held in compliance with California Governor Gavin Newsom's executive order to protect public health and prevent the spread of COVID-19. This Planning Commission meeting is being conducted via teleconference on the city's website and is also provided on a wide array of streaming media platforms to offer access to the public to the fullest extent possible. WehoTV staff have confirmed that this Planning Commission meeting is currently streaming successfully on Spectrum Channel 10 and online at weho.org/WehoTV. In addition, and as a courtesy, this meeting is also successfully streaming on the city's YouTube channel at youtube.com/WehoTV and on Roku, Apple TV, Fire TV, and Android TV. WehoTV staff monitor this broadcast on all platforms throughout the meeting and will notify the Planning Commission Secretary should broadcast disruptions arise. In addition, you may call in to listen to this meeting by dialing 669-900-6833. The meeting ID is 882-0120-3449, and then press the pound sign. Please do not interrupt the live meeting by calling or texting the planning commissioners about difficulties viewing the meeting. Understand that internet speeds, device reliability, third-party platform reliability, and individual or personal technical issues are out of the scope of this broadcast. If you are experiencing viewing difficulties while watching this live stream, please reload the page or visit weho.org/WehoTV to access our official live stream and to view a list of other available streaming options and a guide to troubleshoot your connection. If you continue to experience difficulties, you can also call 323-848-3151. With that, we'll move on to item 4, approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion for an approval?
I'll move.
Vice Chair Jones, thank you for your motion. Do we have a second?
A second.
Commissioner Caballero, thank you for your second. David, would you please call the vote?
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner Vincent,
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas,
Yes.
Commissioner Lombardi,
Yes.
Commissioner Detta.
Yeah.
Commissioner Carvalero,
Yes.
Vice Chair Jones,
Yes.
Chair Hoopengarner,
Yes.
and the agenda is approved as presented for August 19th, 2021.
Thank you, David. Item 5, approval of the minutes. Both the minutes from the July 29th, 2021 meeting and the August 5th, 2021 meeting have been continued to the September 2nd meeting for approval. Item 6, public comment. David, do we have public?
I received no public comment for the general public comment section.
Thank you, David. Item 7, director's report. Mr. Kehoe.
Mr. Kehoe is not here this evening, so we will have to skip his report this time.
Okay, thank you. Item 8, items from commissioners. Do any commissioners have anything that they wish to bring forward at this time? Vice Chair Jones.
Thanks, Chair Hoopengarner. I just wanted to follow up with staff, and I recognize John isn't at this meeting, which is totally fine, but I just wanted to get an update on the project at Doheny and Santa Monica on that northeast corner. So Jennifer, I don't know if you can cover that in your planning report. If not, we can just wait until the next meeting, which I will not be at. So maybe the meeting after that. Anyway,
I can give you an
that's it.
update tonight.
Okay, great. Thanks so much.
Any other items from commissioners? Very good. Item 9, the consent calendar, there is none. Item 10, public hearings. Item A, 9159 Sunset Boulevard. This hearing is to review a request for a new bar, including sales, service, and on-site consumption of full alcohol at an existing commercial tenant space located at 9159 Sunset. At this moment, I would like to acknowledge our departed citizen, Ms. Jean Dobrin, who would at this moment advise us that These types of approvals are approvals that go with the land. This is not an approval for this particular operator. This approval is an approval for this property technically in perpetuity. So Jean, we miss you. And with that, I will turn this over to Derek.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Chair, commissioners, member of the public. My name is Derek Verification, Associate Planner for the City of West Hollywood. As Chair Hoopengartner mentioned, this is for a conditional use permit for the property or tenant space located at 9159 Sunset Boulevard. Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I didn't even share it. Sorry about that. Can everyone see that now? Yeah, okay. Sorry. Okay. Okay, so again, the request is for the sales, service, and on-site consumption of full alcohol, which is type 48. This is for a new bar. The new bar will be called Bar Next Door. It's within an existing 1,300 square foot tenant space. And the request is also in conjunction with interior tenant improvements. This request is also CEQA exempt pursuant to section 15303, which is new construction or conversion of small structures. A little bit about the site itself. The subject site, it sits on the tenant space sits on a 6,000 square foot lot within the SSP zone, which is the Sunset Specific Plan. The tenant space itself is on the ground floor of a 3-story commercial building, and this building is a cultural resource. The surrounding neighborhood, it consists of other commercial uses, including medical offices, personal services, restaurants. This is all to the west, to the south, and the east. And to the north, sorry. There you go. To the north up here is going to be City of LA, and there's residentially zoned properties to the north. This next slide shows a proposed floor plan. The tenant space itself, it's broken up into kind of like 5 major sections. Here in the front, which would be the south side of the tenant space, and here is the front. Sunset Boulevard would be here to your left, and Corey here to the bottom. As you enter, you'll enter into customer area A, as well as the service area. So basically, your typical bar counter. As you walk through, in the middle of the tenant space, you're looking at storage area as well as restrooms. These restrooms, each one of these toilets will be full height, so you won't be able to see anyone's feet. So when you walk through, it's more of like a hallway with some sinks, so everything will be closed off in their own individual rooms. And then in the rear is a 192 square foot customer area B, is what the applicant is referring to. This next slide shows surrounding establishments with alcohol service. Some of these are pretty popular in the city: Bootsy Bellows, Soho House, Boa Steakhouse, as well as Gil Turner's liquor store. And some key highlights that I wanted to point out for this project. This applicant is not proposing any exterior changes to the space. Everything's going to be all interior. And that means it won't affect the cultural resource at all. So all interior improvements, nothing will affect the exterior of the building. The scope of work also includes a change of use. This change of use is from a personal service or a salon to a bar. There's no considered intensification of use since no additional parking is being triggered in this case. Some reasons for that is the space is under 6,000 square feet. It's going from a non-residential use to another non-residential use. And this space was existing before that section of the code was adopted, which I think was maybe like 2 years ago. The proposed hours of operation is 11 a.m. to 2 a.m. daily. And the sales and service of alcohol would be cut 30 minutes short. That's pretty typical of most bars and even restaurants. So it'd be 11 a.m. to 1:30 a.m. and that's daily. In addition, no outdoor dining or smoking patio are proposed. There's no live entertainment and no dance floor being proposed as well as part of this request. So in closing, the proposed use of a small scale bar and the sales service of on-site consumption of alcohol is well suited for the site and the surrounding neighborhood. It adds variety of business to daytime and nighttime life of the Sunset Strip. And this project has been conditioned to minimize any impacts to the surrounding residents and neighbors. And it also meets all of the other zoning ordinance requirements. And therefore, staff recommends approval of the project, conditioned to the draft resolution. And before I end my presentation, there's two things I wanted to mention. Commissioners, you should have received a revised set of plans. Those plans are almost identical to the original ones, but it does address the occupancy and restroom facilities. So there's some minor changes there. And then also I wanted to add another condition, which would be condition 10.17, which is in the CUP or conditional use permit section of conditions. It would read the tenant space shall be limited to occupancy of 49 unless adequate restroom facilities are provided for the increase in occupancy pursuant to West Hollywood Municipal Code section 19.36.200.C2. And that concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions if anyone has any. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we begin, Derek, you had stated that there are no exterior changes. And however, I do see on both A10, A20 that there's a new door being added to the exterior of the building. That to me appears to be an exterior change. And so my question to you is, does a change like that require a review by HPC?
Which exterior door are you referring to?
In the rear.
So that rear door actually is an existing door.
It's an existing door.
Correct.
Then I just did a site visit and I peered over the wall. I had a hard time seeing it. And since we have no side elevations or sections that reflect that door, is the applicant going to be able to present that?
Yeah, I believe so. I think they're ready to, they have their own presentation as well.
Okay, that just was concerning to me because I didn't see that door and it looks like it's being demoed.
I don't believe so. That wasn't part of the proposed project. From what I understand is that there's an existing door to the rear and that would remain. So no exterior changes are proposed.
Okay, I have additional questions, but I'll yield to my colleagues first. Any questions of staff? Commissioner Thomas.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to ask staff, did this project have a community meeting?
This did not have a community meeting. It wasn't required by the zoning code, but I believe the applicant reached out to a lot of the neighbors. I think you should have received a lot of letters of support and correspondence from neighbors in the area. So that's probably why you received a lot of them. They decided to do their own outreach and meet with neighbors before they submitted the application actually.
So the people who were reached out to were people that the applicant reached out to, but there wasn't a community meeting.
That's correct.
Okay, and that's because of our current policy.
The zoning code does not require a neighborhood meeting for this project. If it were, let's say, like a brand new development that goes to planning commission, something like that would typically require a neighborhood meeting. But since this project is just a request for the use itself and there's no development involved, then it does not require a neighborhood meeting.
So I appreciate that that's the current policy, but I think we need to revisit that because as Chair Garner mentioned, this decision does go with the land. And I do think that when there's a major intensification in a project, this is going from a salon to a bar. So there's going to be major change relative to the hours and the foot traffic, the parking, possible noise. And I think that merits discussion and public scrutiny. So perhaps, Madam Chair, we can discuss this in a future meeting of how we determine when a project should have a neighborhood meeting.
Certainly, we can ask staff to agendize that item, and I know it's come up in the past. And I think at this time it'd also be appropriate for Derek just to state for the record about the noticing and making sure that our neighbors to the north in Los Angeles did receive the notice.
All notices were sent out according to our Mercury mailing. We have, like all other projects, we had a notice that went out to a 500-foot radius, and that would include both LA residents as well as residents and occupants within a 500-foot radius, whether they're located within the city or in LA or even Beverly Hills. So to my knowledge, then we have done our part in noticing.
Thank you, Derek.
Sure.
Commissioner Thomas, did you have other questions?
No, thank you, Chair.
Other questions of staff from the commission? There being none, I will throw in a couple.
I have a question.
Oh, sorry, Commissioner Vinson.
I had my hand up. I don't know if you could see my.
No, you know what, Derek, can you get rid of the little, there, there. Sorry, you were off my screen, Commissioner Vinson.
I figured, no worries. So my question is if I'm looking at the set of plans on the first page, A0.0, I see that at the rear, since the rear is at a different level than the curb, there's a staircase that brings you up to the sidewalk from the rear of the building. I would think that's not ADA compliant for egress, as you would need two exits that are ADA compliant. Is that not correct?
So, and maybe this is something that the applicant can speak about, but when we met with Building and Safety, that's something that they checked out. That's actually one of the reasons why they had to revise their occupancy. They were limited to a 49 occupancy, and therefore they're only required to have one emergency exit.
Okay. That's my only question.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Vinson. Let's talk about the noise and sorry, Commissioner Lombardi, you had a question?
Yes, but perhaps Commissioner Cavallaro had a question as well. I think I saw his hand up. If you'd like to go first.
Thanks. I mean, Derek and I quickly discussed this earlier today, and I know there's a condition in it, but I just want to confirm that back door is only going to be used for service and not for any entry into that back dining area. That is conditioned, and the occupant is on board with that. Correct, Derek?
That's correct. Yep. The applicant was okay with that. I let them know that this could be a sensitive area, especially because the back door it backs up to residential properties, and they were definitely okay with it. They said no problem, we can condition it.
So anybody, any celebrity, right, has to come through the front door.
That's correct.
Regardless. Okay, great. Thank you.
Commissioner Lombardi.
Thank you, Chair Hoopengarner. Derek, we had a conversation on Tuesday, I believe, perhaps I guess it was Wednesday, regarding the occupancy numbers and the number of stalls that were provided in the bathroom. And I guess I was wondering if we could just review that again. I saw that there were some updates in the plan. I appreciate that there were some clarifications made there. So section 19.36.200 in the municipal code had some sort of limits that were established. And I think my question at the time in our discussion was, does there need to be additional lavatories provided for the space? Now the occupancy count has gone down, and I was wondering if you could help explain the logic of it going down, and also, does that mean it cannot go up again, or how did we get to a lower number and change it?
Sure, sure. And this is something that, you know, the applicant can kind of get into detail since they worked with the plan checker with on this. But essentially, you know, there's a provision in the plumbing code that allows the building official to basically make an exception and say like they can reduce an occupant load, but there has to be somewhat like a hardship, I guess you could say. In this case, you know, with a tenant space that's, you know, kind of on the smaller side and a little narrow, providing, you know, the amount of fixtures that they would need per plumbing code as well as the zoning code was pretty tough to do. So the building official felt that there was a hardship there and they could use the reduce occupant load exception, which is they gave me the code section number. It's 1004.5 exception 1. And essentially what this does is allows them to cap the occupancy. And that's why I added that additional condition to cap it at 49. And that way it does a couple of things. It takes away the need for 2 emergency exits. It also only requires 1 ADA stall. And so that essentially reduced the number of not only occupants, but also how many fixtures they actually needed. So now with the 49 cap, it complies with both the plumbing code with the exception, and then it also conforms with the zoning code. Hopefully that makes sense. I know it's a little convoluted, but that's kind of how it was explained to me.
I think it makes sense. I guess I'm just trying to understand the only way that that number could ever be changed would be by resubmitting plans and provisioning for additional stalls, and therefore trying to increase the occupancy at a later date. And
Correct.
then if that were to happen, how would that be handled? Would that be done? That wouldn't come to the planning commission normally, right? That would.
I think that would be, you know, essentially up to the planning commission. Typically something like exiting and occupancy load and things like that are normal things that you would encounter during plan check, you know, after entitlement and after, you know, issuing any planning permits. We do have the condition that caps them at 49 unless they provide the proper amount of fixtures that are needed by the zoning code. So I think in that way, we're kind of covered there, but I would leave it up to the commission to make that decision whether or not, if there is a change, then it would have to come back to planning commission, or alternatively, I think we can also leave it up to the director of planning and development services.
I have one more question.
Sure.
I feel like I read this the other day, and apologies, I don't remember, but the building has fire sprinklers or does not have fire sprinklers?
You know, that I'm not too sure. That's another thing that typically gets taken care of during plan check, but I think the applicant would probably know better than I do since they've actually been in the space.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Vice Chair Jones.
Thank you. I just want to confirm with staff, this is in a building that is designated historic, correct?
That's correct.
Great, thanks.
All right, any others? And do wave your hand, because it's sometimes with these backgrounds, your hands go missing. So I can't see. Okay, I do have a couple questions. Derek, when we're talking about noise, one of my favorite noises is the sound of many large alcohol bottles dropping into a bin at 2 o'clock in the morning. So knowing that the bins are actually on the back property line next to our neighbors to the north, and also knowing how that sound carries, how do your resolutions propose to address that?
They're not called out specific to trash, but you know, those are typically handled, you know, by our normal noise ordinance. So, you know, as you know, we do everything by complaint base. So anytime there's any issues with sound, especially with you know, bottles and things being thrown into a dumpster, then it typically gets handled through code compliance. I did mention that to the applicant, and they would be open to having a condition, maybe limiting them to disposing of, bottles or any type of trash, by a certain time, whichever time the commission felt was appropriate.
I think it would be more appropriate for us to address the situation in advance than to rely on the neighbors having to call code compliance every other day. That doesn't seem like an appropriate way to run a city, in my opinion, but we can talk about that later. And it's a minor but still related issue about that rear door where those trash haulings will happen, et cetera. And the slamming of said rear door can also carry loudly through the neighborhood. So do we have any conditions that are going to require soft closing, et cetera, et cetera?
We don't have a condition for that. I don't know if I've ever come across that before, but I'm sure the applicant would be open to it. Maybe there's some type of mechanism that can be attached to the door that does a soft closing. And I would imagine they would be definitely open to adding that condition if the commission wanted it.
Okay, thank you. Now, noticing on the plans, I'm looking at A2.0, that rear room has a large dead space immediately next to the neighboring property where no seating has been provided, et cetera. Is there anything in this that would prevent a connection being opened between the neighboring building?
Chair.
Thank
Chair,
you.
Can I just jump in real quick? I think it might benefit us to hear from the applicant and have them do their presentation before we get into some of these, because I think some of these will probably be covered.
I'm sure they will address what they intend to do with that space, and that isn't my question, and I appreciate that they will, discuss what their plans are. My question to Derek is about what in our code and in our resolution prevents a magic door opening there.
I don't think there's anything in particular that says you can't connect two spaces together. I think if anything, it would be that, that type of work would require permits, both a zone clearance as well as building permits. If they were to
permits, to be clear, that would not be required to go through planning commission.
Because this is a bar, and let's say, for example, if this was approved and at some point they wanted to connect the two, I think that's something major enough that would warrant us going back to planning commission, essentially saying that, look, you're expanding the bar space and you're going into the adjacent space. So essentially doubling, the bar. And that would, I feel like would warrant going back to the planning commission for an amendment.
That changes your occupancy load completely.
And
Exactly.
it does that as well, correct?
Exactly, it does, and it back to the bathroom question, et cetera, et cetera. So I just want us to be really clear about that, given especially that they're the same operator for both properties. So with that, let's ask the applicant to give their presentation. So what will happen now is the applicant will give their presentation. They will have 10 minutes. Which will be followed by questions from the commission, which will be followed by public comment. And then the applicant will have a 5-minute rebuttal, followed by any follow-up questions of staff or the applicant by the commission, and then final deliberations. Before we begin at this point, though, do we have any disclosures by any of the commissioners? Commissioner Lombardi?
Or yeah, I'd just like to note that I did make a site visit. I think it was actually for one of the billboard applications, but also I've driven by the site a few times in the last week and have made a note while driving by. It's my only disclosure.
Thank you. And as I already noted, I did make a specific site visit today to establish the rear door. If there are no other disclosures, Mr. Diaz, Commissioner Thomas.
I also did a site visit.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Diaz, you are presenting for the applicant?
Yes, I am. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I'll share my screen as well. Hope everyone can see that. All right. So hello, commissioners. My name is Manny Diaz. I'm the principal planner and co-owner of FE Design and Consulting. We're the applicant's representatives here in the matter. Lawrence Longo from the applicant's team, he's also here to make a brief statement. He's on the call to also answer any questions that you may have. As stated in the staff report, the applicants are taking this existing, a little bit under 1,300 square foot tenant space, which was most recently housed as a salon, and converting it into a cozy neighborhood bar. The property, as you know, houses a two-story building with offices on the second floor and these ground floor commercial uses. Currently, the other use, as we all know, is Print Street Pizza, which opened opened late last year. And this space, as we know, is the corner unit that's currently vacant. Because the property slopes upwards as it goes north on Quarry, you could see that the rear half of the space is actually somewhat below grade, which helps to mitigate noise impacts going in that direction. The rear of the property, which it came up during the presentation, the rear of the property, obviously it's not for patron use. In fact, there's no outdoor component to this request, and all activity will take place within the wholly enclosed building. So the applicants will ensure that any employee use of the area is done as quickly and quietly as possible. We did discuss the bottle issue. Thank you for bringing that up. Bottles after 11 p.m., bottles can be kept inside and they can be thrown away the next morning, right? And this is, once again, this is to prevent that clinking noise that you brought up. It's something that the applicants have already been thinking about because they do want to run this business. They want it to be successful, and they want the neighbors to the rear to actually be their patrons. That rear door will also be self-closing. You can put something on there that prevents it from slamming, and the applicants are more than happy to do that. The trash, unfortunately, in the morning when it gets taken out, they have to walk up those steps. It's just something that staff has to do. It's just part of having a business at this property. But that's how they do it. The project, we're not generating any new building area, square footage, or height. It's simply a tenant improvement. So any exterior work that happens, we're not proposing at this time. Anything that they do with signage will work with planning and ensure that any new signage that gets proposed meets current code. If it has to go to a commission, then of course we'll definitely go to commission. The floor plan, as you can see, as Derek explained, it has seating in the front around kind of a central service area, and they have the semi-private customer area to the rear, which obviously it's monitored and served by staff, just like the rest of the business. It'll be open, not open at all times. It's really going to act as overflow seating or for a small group, but mainly folks will be congregating in the front patron area. That rear door leading out of the space, it does go to the rear. Once again, it's not going to be used for patron access at all. And then in order to address this expansion, like any potential expansion in here, like the folks on the call said, that would increase the occupant load. It would require a building permit. Also, the licensing here is for a type 48 license. It's a bar license with the alcoholic beverage control, and no minors are allowed at all in the premises. So if we were to expand it into that, there would also be some severe ABC implications for the ABC license. So the applicant has no intention of expanding the premises or moving into the adjacent space at all. This is owned by a separate LLC. It's a separate business, and they want to keep it that way. The occupant load designation, like less than 50, it allows us to keep one ADA accessible restroom and then 3 fixtures here. This does meet the code requirements. We met with building and safety and planning on this. It does meet the code requirements for 49 or fewer occupants. If the applicant did at some point want to increase that, they obviously would have to add another ADA accessible ADA accessible stall, which would then require the other toilet stalls to be relocated. So it'd be a pretty big change. So I don't think that's something that the applicants are looking to do right at the immediate time. We haven't gone through building and safety plan check yet because we can't. We have to wait until Planning Commission has weighed in on the issue. But once we, if we do get approved, we will go to building and safety and we will submit plans and we'll go through all code requirements. Of course, we'll comply with every code that building and safety needs us to in order to open the business. As mentioned previously in the staff report, due to the physical constraints of the site, there's no public parking available. The applicant's team will direct patrons to use ride-sharing apps, metered parking on Sunset, or the existing pay lots in the area. But the applicant's vision is really to provide a quiet neighborhood bar for people of all walks of life to come and congregate and have a drink. They're not interested in competing with the clubs on the strip. There's no dancing or live entertainment or ticketed venues or events here. They're not going to have a high-priced membership fee to enter. It really is a quiet, safe neighborhood establishment. They don't envision having a queue all that often because really they're not having those type of events here. But if one does happen, of course, it'll be away from Corey and towards the west on Sunset. There's also going to be a licensed security guard on the premises from 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And staff will be fully trained and they'll undergo an ABC responsible beverage service training. So once again, the tenant space is partially undergrade on the eastern side. It's surrounded by other businesses. There's no exterior component, no dancing or live entertainment. So we know that it'll be a benefit for the neighborhood and not a nuisance. The applicants have read all of the conditions in the staff report and willing to accept and adhere to every single one of them. We have no complaints about the proposed conditions. Finally, Lawrence Longo, he's on the call too. He's the applicant. It's important to understand him. Lawrence is the founder of a food discovery app called Off the Menu. He's a co-owner of Burgers Never Say Die and of course Prince Street Pizza. So essentially he's his own next door neighbor here. And he's obviously familiar with the neighborhood and he's invested in its upkeep. That's why he's starting a business right next door. He's also a huge supporter of West Hollywood and he's going to be opening up Irv's Burger Stand once again. That's kind of the next project after this. So he's a great operator and really excited about opening this up. And so I'll yield the rest of my time towards Lawrence so he can make a brief comment.
Lauren, you have 3 minutes, 21 seconds left.
Awesome. I'll make this quick. Thank you guys for having me. I really, the passion behind this project is to create a neighborhood bar, a third place for the community. Everything around this area is like a private club or you have to know somebody to get in. It's not really, it's all exclusive and not inclusive to the neighborhood. And I just really felt like having a good neighborhood bar would be something that would be beneficial to the neighborhood. He mentioned everything I do. I love food. I love hospitality. I always try and operate the best businesses I can. And I really love to be a part of the community and do whatever I can to really make this establishment something the community will be proud of. I can keep going.
Nope, thank you. I was just grabbing my mouse. Thank you for your presentation. Are there any questions of the applicant at this time? Commissioner Dutta.
Thank you. A few questions. One would have to do with the exterior signage for the bar. Is it envisioned that it would be in line with the Prince Street Pizza signage and be kind of to a similar scale? I know there are no images that have already been provided.
Yeah, it being that it's a historical landmark, there's very little I can do with signage. The idea for this is to be very classy and simple and clean.
Okay. The staff report we provided with had mentioned that this bar, one of the draws would be theme nights. And so I was wondering if you could go a little bit into what exactly that entails. And are those still going to be theme nights that are going to be more of a neighborhood draw, or is it something you're envisioning as more of a regional draw? Because I think that has implications with occupancy at the property.
I don't think there'll be too many theme nights, to be honest. But if anything, it would just be very local.
Okay, I guess my question is, by theme night, what are you exactly referring to? Just an example.
In terms of a theme night?
Yeah. As to what it would be in this space.
Geez. Well, I don't plan on having TVs, so it wouldn't be sports themes. Did we put themes in the application?
Yeah, I don't recall adding anything in the application about having theme nights.
Yeah, there was no plans for any sort of theme nights. Like, you caught me off guard, to be honest. It was
I think it was in the narrative.
Okay, yeah, that might have been included by error. I don't think there's going to be any special theme nights.
Okay. Yeah, and I didn't mean to catch you off guard. If that's
no, it's fine.
If that's not happening, then that's fine.
Yeah. You mean like sporting events or things like that?
I honestly did not know what to think about that. So that was,
For example, a game night or
like our trivia or something like that.
This isn't a place. This isn't a place for that type of. I don't think I don't plan on having TVs in the bar and things like that. Or so there was no theme nights planned.
Okay. And Chair Hoopengarner had brought up that back the custom area B earlier. There's kind of an open space there. I don't know if the question was really answered. Like, is that space just kind of intended to just be open there for kind of to allow for access in and out for when that door does open in the back? Because all the seating is along one wall. So if you can answer that, that'd be great.
Yeah, Manny, I'll answer that. That space in the back is purely for my staff to have lunch breaks for the in the pizzeria. That's the only usage for that. Sometimes there's meetings and things like that, but that's like staff meetings and things like that.
Those are all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have questions of the applicant? Commissioner Thomas.
Thank you, Chair. Just so the public listening to this is clear, can you explain one more time about the back room and how that is factored into the occupancy quoted in the staff report?
So the back room, I think, Lawrence, they're talking about the area just adjacent to the restrooms and before the rear door, correct?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Yeah, so yeah, that is going to be like an adjacent overflow area that could be used for private events, or like if somebody wants to come in and have a little private party, they could use that area. And you can see that it's not very big. It's just, I think it's under 200 square feet. And so our occupant load is just limited. I think right now we're showing 13 seats there. And like the other commissioner mentioned, providing a path of travel into that back door for people to walk in. That's why there's no seats in front of it. It's just to provide access so people can go in and out of that space without kind of infringing on a group of people that are there.
Okay, thank you. And where is staff going to park?
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
The staff, where is the staff going to park?
Oh, so I rent parking in 91, what is it, 9100 or 9200 down the street for all my staff. So there should be about I'll rent 5 spaces for my staff there. The same place I rent parking for the staff at Prince Street.
Okay, great. And I'm happy to hear that you're going to be encouraging rideshare, but I know that in the staff report, there were 2 large surface parking lots that were mentioned. And it's possible that parking may not always be there, because I know that there is a pending EIR project at the Hornburg site. And I know that major development is anticipated for the other half of the big surface parking lot. And I'm just concerned that if that parking goes away, where your patrons will be parking. So I'm glad to hear that you're going to be encouraging rideshare, but do you have any other ideas about how you're going to mitigate that parking impact?
Yeah, if I'm allowed on nights that were busier than others, and I thought that was an issue, I would be happy to bring on valet if that's a solution to the issue. I feel like people shouldn't be driving to bars, but I I think that would be the solution to that, is that I would probably, if allowed, to have valet at the restaurant.
Okay. There are identified street parking stalls in front of the business. If staff determines that it's necessary, can we get an agreement from you on the record that you would support turning one or two of those street meter parking stalls into rideshare drop-off white curb location if staff deemed that necessary?
I'm fine with that. Are you asking me?
Sure. Great. I just wanted to get that on the record. And then my final thing is not really a question. I just wanted to say that I know that it's been directed by City Council, but the city has not officially implemented an ordinance for unisex bathrooms. So I just wanted to commend you for being forward-looking and being aware of our community needs. I just wanted to acknowledge that and express my appreciation for including the unisex bathroom. And that's all I have, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Thomas. Are there any other questions of the applicant at this time? Commissioner Lombardi.
Thank you. I just have one or two quick ones, and I believe you may have sort of answered one of these questions already in discussion about providing parking for staff. So typically, how much staff would be operating this facility on a typical day?
On slow days, 2 to 3. On busy days, 5.
Okay, so up to 5. And then am I counting 44 seats on the plan now? Correct. Okay, and the occupancy is 49?
Correct.
Okay. So all seats could be occupied and all staff could be there. You wouldn't be in a situation where you have empty seats that can't be filled. Okay. And are you okay with this occupancy count? I was a little surprised to see it go down, honestly. So I'm curious your thoughts on how this was arrived to as a solution.
Yeah, I think part of it is it is a narrow space, as you can see, and it's less than 1,300 square feet. So in order to accommodate a service counter, the kind of service counter, which creates a lot of the ambiance that he needs, in order to accommodate that, the 4 restrooms or the 4 toilet stalls, you can see very quickly you eat up quite a large portion of the real estate here. And so in conversations with building and safety and the planning staff, it was deemed that, in order to really make this happen, we had to have those 4 stalls and 1 ADA stall, a unisex ADA stall is what you see here. But adding another one in order to make this happen really would basically force us to remove the whole back room. And so in order to, and I think originally we wanted 61 occupants, that's what it was, 61. Adding that second ADA stall, which we didn't really envision, because we haven't gone to plan check, of course. We were told recently that we had to have a second ADA stall at that occupant load, and it would basically just be the back room. So we decided, let's reduce the occupancy load down to 49. We can leave the restrooms as they are now and we still get the back room. So it was really more of like, just the dimensions of the site really dictated what we had to do. And then the plumbing code and the zoning code requirements for this obviously requires additional restroom stalls. So we had to back into that occupant load. But I don't think we're too concerned just because it is less than 1,300 square feet. It is really small. And I think what Lawrence wants to do is have like a neighborhood vibe. He doesn't want kind of a packed place where you can't have a conversation. So I think even though we backed into that number, I do think it dovetails really well with the whole kind of ambiance and what he's trying to do here.
Okay, I appreciate hearing how you feel about all of this. That's what I was curious about. It sounds like this number that's been arrived to is something that you're okay with.
Yeah, I think Lawrence could speak to this too. He just wants to open this place up. He's super excited about it. We want to work with the city and do everything we can to make everybody happy. Building and safety planning, the commission. He wants to work with the community. And if building and safety told us about the bathroom issue, we fixed it on the phone with them right away. It took about 10 minutes. And that's how we're approaching this. We want to make sure everybody's happy. We just want to open this place up and really be a true neighborhood establishment.
Okay, and I have just 2 other questions. One, an understanding, as Vice Chair Jones noted, that this project is historic. Do you know if there's sprinklers in place currently? I'm just trying to understand if the building's sprinklered or not. The staff was not certain of that. I realize you'll have to go through all codes, but what's the current condition?
I don't believe there's sprinklers in the built-in in the roof.
Okay. And then one last question I have. So understanding that the occupancy count is fairly low, all you need are 1 or 2 really amazing Instagrammable drinks to, you know, maybe get some interest in the location, hopefully locally. And I'm wondering, queuing could become something that, you know, could easily happen, even though it's a small bar. And as you describe it, trying to cater more to the neighborhood, how are you going to handle queuing with a limited capacity?
Yeah, so if that was ever the case to happen, we'd make sure that the line goes down Sunset Boulevard and not up towards the neighborhood. We'd have it go in front of Prince Street Pizza and along Sunset. I really don't foresee there being a line at this type of place. The marketing strategy behind this isn't to have it be an Instagrammable bar per se, but I know those things can happen, and but it's not the plan. But the plan, if there was a line, would to be go down Sunset.
And I'll add to that, those nights you're talking about, like Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights, and we'll have a licensed security guard there as well. So if that does happen, there'll be somebody trained and paid on staff just to monitor that, to focus their attention onto the street. And that's, one of the reasons why we want to have a security guard there.
Okay. And it looks like you only have about 16, 17 feet of space out front on Sunset Boulevard, but only about 10 feet or so between the door and the adjacent space, which is your pizza place, I guess. So you would just stop the line and start it again to prevent crowding and potential collisions there at that entrance.
Yeah, and that would be the security guard would be trained to monitor that. And the good news is he owns Prince Pizza. So there's not going to be any neighbor he's going to have to make a deal with. He can make a deal with himself. And hopefully those folks waiting in line, if there is a line, they can go in and get a slice of pizza. And then it'll be like a synergistic relationship between the two.
Okay.
I'll run the line through the pizzeria.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Lombardi. Are there any other questions of the applicant? Commissioner Vinson?
So I know we've asked this question several times, but I just want a clarification because we were given 2 separate answers. So the back room at one point was talked about being a break room for the staff and a place, and also for meetings for the staff. But then another answer said it was for private parties and overflow. Can you please clarify your intent on that rear room?
No, I think Lawrence was talking about there's another storage area in the back. I think he thought that rear room meant the storage area in the backyard and not the back area of this establishment. So I think it was just a miscommunication.
That's correct. I thought you meant the back outdoor area, not the back room area. So the back outdoor area is where my staff has breaks for lunch. That's different from the back room area of the restaurant. I'm sorry, I wasn't clear.
Okay, so what about once we're after 10 p.m.? We wouldn't want people having their breaks out there and making noise.
It's different business. That's not where the staff from the bar goes to. That was from the pizzeria.
Okay. Got it. So the pizzeria people, they have their breaks in the back area. Okay, so all our questions, we're just talking about this one. Okay, all right, thanks.
Any other questions of the applicant at this time? All right, there being none, let's go to public comment. David, I believe we have public.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I did receive a few public comment speaker forms. If there is anybody on the line that did not contact me before and you're on the phone, hit *9 for me. That'll let me know to put you in the queue and you can have your say on this item.
And to all of those who wish to speak, you'll have 3 minutes to speak. Please state your name and your city of residence. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Our first public speaker will be Ryan Levine. Ryan, you have 3 minutes. And just *6 for us to unmute yourself.
Hi, good evening, Planning Commissioners. My name is Ryan Levine. I'm a resident of Los Angeles. My office is located at 8747 Sunset Boulevard in West Hollywood on the Sunset Strip. I'm a very active member in the community and conduct the majority of my business on the Sunset Strip, as well as within the city of West Hollywood city limits. I'm in full support of the bar next door concept and would personally love to see it materialize. The west end of the strip is well deserving of additional places to meet and socialize, and I'm confident the bar next door will bring more liveliness and activation to the area, and I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Ryan. Our next public speaker will be Jason Tedorci. Jason will be followed by Roxanne. Jason, go ahead and *6 to unmute yourself, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Commissioners, thank you for letting me speak. I am a resident of West Hollywood, and my family has owned the building for over 45 years. We are committed to the building, committed to the neighborhood. We made the building a historic resource. My mother used to operate a restaurant next door that did serve beer and wine. I met Lawrence. He's an incredible operator. Retail has been tough, and as the city council kind of pointed out in our meeting last week, this has been vacant for a long time. We're excited to have, him there and operate both the pizza place and hopefully the bar. I think it'll be great for the neighborhood in activating it and activating the area. So I thank you for your consideration and your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jason. Our next speaker will be Roxanne. Roxanne, go ahead, *6 for me, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak.
Good evening. My name is Roxanne, and I've been a resident of West Hollywood since 1983, just before the city became the city of West Hollywood. I live at 1140 North Clark Street, which is halfway up Clark Street behind the Whiskey. I'm a resident manager and leasing agent for a 42-unit apartment building, of which I have managed since 1990. And I have a lot of experience with all of the venues on the Sunset Strip, especially the Whiskey, which has outdoor events as well. The mountain does absorb the sound. People run queues up the hill to buy tickets and wait in line for the venue. I think a neighborhood bar would be phenomenal for the area on the West End. There is a need for a neighborhood bar, and it would be great because a lot of times you don't want to stop into a restaurant that is a bar also. Just going on a walk or running an errand and having a place to go to meet other people or just relax and then walk home. It's phenomenal, and I believe the Sunset Strip is going to be the new restaurant row, and I think it would bring revenue and a lot of kudos to the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Roxanne. And our last public speaker, it looks like we may have lost him. Cesar, if you're on the call with this, you can go ahead and join us, *6, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak. And it looks like we may have lost Cesar. So that is all the public speakers we have at this time, Chair.
Thank you, David. With that, the applicant has 5 minutes to rebut the public comment.
Thank you, Commissioners. Manny Diaz again. I don't think there's anything new to say except for we really appreciate all those folks who spoke here tonight. We agree with everything they say. we really feel that a new neighborhood establishment here, with all the conditions that the Planning Commission has in front of them, will both provide a new establishment and a place to congregate for residents, but also do it in a way that's not a nuisance to the neighborhood. I think, once again, this is not a nightclub. It's not going to compete with the Whiskey or any of those establishments. There's no dancing or live entertainment. It really is just a small, cozy neighborhood bar, and the applicant has no intention of doing anything other than that. So we would, of course, if you have any other questions, feel free to ask, but we really ask for your support here to allow Lawrence to get this approval, get an ABC license, submit to Building and Safety, and then open this up sometime in the first quarter of next year. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, I think we will close the public hearing and move into deliberations. Does anyone have anything that they wish to comment on at this point? Well, with that, if not, I will simply say that I rather love the idea of a small neighborhood bar, our own little sort of version of Cheers. For those of you who remember Sloan's down on Melrose back in the day, which has since, transmuted into any number of other venues, but it was a neighborhood bar. And the idea of having something that's walkable for the neighborhood and is a neighborhood serving business, especially in one of our historic resources, is I rather love the idea. I personally would be inclined to move this forward with two modifications to the resolutions, one requiring that no trash be disposed of after 11 p.m. and the other just referring to that soft closing door requirement. Is there a second? Is there any other discussion?
I'd second that.
Thank you, Commissioner Caballero. Vice Chair Jones.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Chair Hoopen-Garner. I guess I just wanted to kind of weigh in on a few things. I don't have a ton of feedback about this. I too really do love the idea of a neighborhood bar on the Sunset Strip. I live just south of Sunset, kind of on the other side of West Hollywood. But I think I've regularly lamented kind of the lack of locals, I don't want to say locals friendly, but places I would enjoy going on the Sunset Strip. So personally, I'm very much in favor of this. I also think that any place that has food accessible nearby is likely to be a hit and probably a safer, more enjoyable place to be. I guess my only question, Commissioner Hoopen-Garner, about your motion in terms of the trash, does this mean that people wouldn't be able to take the trash out before the bar closes each night?
I think if we can come up with a way to segregate the bottles versus regular trash, it's about the noise. And I have no desire to leave, bins full of trash interior, inviting, various critters. But it's a question of how to accommodate that, and I'm open to suggestion.
No, sure. I think I would defer to staff in terms of whether or not there have been other places, maybe like Justin Queso's or Rock and Riley's, that are maybe a little larger but akin to this, that have conditions like that. My personal opinion is that I say we because collectively I also live off of Sunset. We live off the Sunset Strip, and there are clubs and bars there, and that's just kind of like what we sign up for when we live there. Not any disrespect to our Los Angeles neighbors, certainly, or anyone who lives in West Hollywood, but it's kind of what the Sunset Strip is known for. So whether it's helicopters or 250,000 cars driving on Sunset Boulevard per day, music or, lines, I just think that kind of comes with the territory. So I'm open to, hearing if there's a solution. Certainly if the applicant's open to it, I'm not opposed. But I just want to be, I've said my piece.
And I completely agree, Vice Chair Jones. I mean, we're WeHo. I'm a block from Sunset on the other side of town. But there's a difference between what I call white noise, all the traffic is sort of white noise. It's those sudden, very loud bangs that are so disturbing. And that's where a large drop of bottles or slamming door really is what wakes you up at night. So that's what I was trying to address. So maybe Ms. Alkire, you have some suggestions?
I was going to just chime in and say, I don't know of any other bars that have a condition such as this, but we've put together some language for it. We can specify that it's glass that we're restricting and not the rest of the trash. We certainly don't want to create a nuisance or have the establishment smell. But we put together some language that we can read into the record. I think the one that we're talking about here is to reduce, this would be condition 9.25, to reduce noise impacts. Specifying glass waste and recycling materials may not be disposed of in the bins located in the rear of the property between 11 p.m. and 8 a.m. daily. And then the other was 9.26, prior to the commencement of use, in order to reduce noise impacts, all rear doors, and I'm just putting that out there so that it's anything in the rear that they're using, shall be equipped with a self-closing mechanism with equipment to prevent the door from slamming, to the satisfaction of the Planning and Development Services Director.
The only thing I would say is that's really soft closing. Then if I,
to
architects correct me, but I think it's a soft closing as opposed to self.
Oh, I see, soft closing, got it. I think we just misheard you there. So a soft closing mechanism to prevent the door from slamming.
Just like on your kitchen drawers, the whole little.
Yeah,
exactly.
I try to slam it sometimes. It doesn't.
Yeah, Yeah, thank you, Jennifer. I think that addresses my two concerns. And we did have a second. Is there any discussion? Commissioner Lombardi?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I was curious how we would put these conditions into place, but I agree with what's being suggested. I think that's a great way to figure a way to sort this out, especially with regards to glass and things that might be noisy, but also sanitary concerns as well. And then I'd just like to say that I really do like the idea of this project, and I think it will help activate the neighborhood. As much as a bar could create potential problems and or risks, I think also, as Jane Jacobs would say, eyes and ears on the street. This really seems like it's neighbor oriented, limited capacity. I think it would be great to have something on the Sunset Strip that maybe stands out a little bit and is a little bit more neighbor focused. So I think that this is a wonderful thing to be happening, and I feel like the concerns that I had have been well addressed in our discussions.
Thank you, Commissioner Lombardi. Are there any other discussion at this time?
I would just say I'm prepared to support the motion as it's been read so far. I'm in support of that.
Thank you, Vice Chair Jones. There being no other discussion, David, would you please call the roll?
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner Carvalero?
Yes.
Commissioner Dada?
Yeah.
Commissioner Lombardi?
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Vincent?
Yes.
Vice Chair Jones?
Yes.
Chair Huppengarner?
Yes.
And the motion carries unanimously. One moment, I have an appeal process. The resolution the Planning Commission just approved memorializes the Commission's final action on this matter. This action is subject to appeal to the City Council. Appeals must be submitted within 10 calendar days from this date to the City Clerk's office. Appeals must be in writing and accompanied by the required fees. The City Clerk's office can provide appeal forms and information about waiver of fees.
Thank you, David. Moving on to item 10B, 9165 to 9169 Sunset. This is a new billboard request. The applicant has asked that this item be continued until a date certain of September 2nd, 2021. With that, item 11, new business, there is none. Item 12, excuse me, Aaron.
Excuse me.
Okay. Item 12, unfinished business, there is none. Item 13, excluded consent calendar, there is none. Item 14, items from staff, planning manager's update, Ms. Alkire.
You guys got to me so fast. Hang on one sec. Okay. All right. So let's see here. So upcoming meetings, we've got our next meeting is September 2nd. We've got a continued item that we heard at the last meeting, the 1301 to 1307 Fairfax. That was continued to a date certain. And then we've got major amendment to a hotel project at 1040 La Brea. The meeting on September 16th has been canceled. It's a holiday. So we're looking into possible dates for a special meeting, and we'll reach out to you for availability probably early next week, because it looks like the 2 meetings in October are already very heavy. So we're sort of just looking at the items that we've got. So keep an eye out for that in case we need to schedule a special meeting. It would likely be, we would try for September 30th. We're going to agendize that for the next meeting to vote on. So that's what's coming up for Planning Commission. We've got Design Review Subcommittee next week, looking at the changes to the Melrose Triangle project, and looking at 8615 West Knoll, which is a 10-unit apartment building. And then we've got another Design Review Subcommittee meeting on September 23rd, which will have Robertson Lane, the changes to the hotel and multi-use project at Robertson and Santa Monica. And then for the Sunset Arts and Advertising Subcommittee, the next meeting is September 9th, be 8501 Sunset, and then a policy design discussion talking about logos, operator logos on the boards themselves. And then it looks like in October, the October 14th meeting will have 8590 Sunset. That's what we're anticipating at this point. That's pretty far out still. Couple of things to update. So on the project at 9091 Santa Monica, that's the project right at Santa Monica and Doheny that Vice Chair Jones was asking about. That was approved in 2018 as a small boutique, I think 6-room hotel and a restaurant. It's a rehabilitation of a historic structure there at the corner, right at the very west end of the city. And they are in plan check currently, but they are also proposing some changes to that, both programmatically and structurally. So you will likely see that again. I don't think they've submitted yet, so I'm not 100% sure exactly what they're coming in with. But that's something to, happy to provide updates, but that's something that may be coming before you at some point in the future. Is that the kind of update you were looking for? Okay.
Exactly. I just wondered kind of what status was. I know there's a leaf sign on the bottom floor, but yes, that's great, Jennifer. Thank you.
Okay. And then,
can you see?
David, you're not muted. And then the occupancy, there was a question about, oh no, it was neighborhood meetings. So the Commissioner Thomas, you had a question about the neighborhood meetings policy, and that's something that the commission we can agendize for you to direct us to take an item or ask council to direct us to do something. And that would be, because that would be a municipal code change. It's not a policy decision, but it's actually in the municipal code. So we can provide you some guidance on the steps for that if the commission finds that it wants to request those changes or request council to consider those changes. Okay. And that's all I had for tonight.
Commissioner Caballero.
Yeah, Chair Hoopengarter, you mentioned that item 10B from tonight is being moved to a meeting in September.
Yes.
Jennifer didn't mention that. When is it being moved to exactly?
It's October 7th. I'm sorry, I didn't get into October. I just talked about the September.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm
but Chair
sorry,
Hoopengarner
my
mentioned-
understanding was that it was September 2, but if you're saying it's October 7, thank you.
Yeah, and Chair, and if I can rewind here, I would like to get a record, a roll call vote, officially continuing it to October 7th. So if I could get a first and second motion.
Thank you, David, for keeping us on the straight and narrow.
I'll move.
That.
Second.
Okay, so we kind of just zoomed around the calendar here. So moving from items to staff, back to item 10B, 9165 to 9169 Sunset Boulevard. We have a motion and a second to continue this item to a date certain of October 7th, Jennifer? October 7th, 2021. Having a motion and a second, David, would you please call the vote?
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Commissioner Cavallaro, for bringing that up and allowing me to jump in on this. Commissioner Vincent,
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas,
Yes.
Commissioner Lombardi,
Yes.
Commissioner Detta,
Yes.
Commissioner Cavallaro,
Yes.
Vice Chair Jones,
Yes.
Chair Hoopengarner,
Yes.
and the motion carries to be officially continued to October 7th, 2021. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for keeping me on the straight and narrow, David. All right, so Jennifer, we kind of jumped into the end of your planning manager's update. Did we have anything else?
No, I was finished unless there's questions for me.
If there are none, then item 15, public comment. David, do we have public?
Chair, I've received no public comments for this item, and I do not believe we have anyone else on the platform with this at this time. We are clear.
Excellent, thank you. Moving on to item 16, items from commissioners. We'll do a mashup with comments and subcommittee management. I will start with the fact that I have put in a request to Ms. Alkire and Eason about the idea of being more flexible with our SASE and design review dates, that instead of being absolutely committed to the second Thursday being SASE and the fourth Thursday being design review. For example, in this month, we actually canceled SASE because we didn't have content, but we could have used it potentially for design review hearing. Obviously, this requires that staff have a little bit more ability to plan. You know, you've got to be more than 30 days out on some of this in order to make that happen. But it's just a thought, especially moving into the next couple of months. We're going to lose our fourth Thursday in both November and December. So there is no design review. And that's one of the reasons we are entertaining the idea at the next meeting about adding the September 30th date. And I acknowledge Commissioner Thomas, thank you for giving us a heads up that you would be unavailable for that date. So in your comments, if anyone has the ability to state if you've got any conflicts on that date now, knowing that we will potentially be discussing that at the September 2 meeting. So I'm open to your thoughts on that flexibility. The good news is, Commissioner Lombardi and I both serve on both of them. So it really comes down to Commissioner Jones and Commissioner Caballero needing more flexibility if we go that route in terms of either meeting the second Thursday or the fourth Thursday. So those are my comments. Do anything else from any Vice Chair Jones?
Thanks. Yeah, I actually just wanted to that end, just call out again that I will not be in attendance at the next meeting. I have a family event that has literally been planned for the past year and a half. It's been rescheduled several times. You can probably guess what kind of event that it is, but I'm not going to blast it out. I also, just for the purposes of, we have essentially had a ton of turnover on Planning Commission in a way that we historically have not, at least not since I've been on commission. And I wanted to provide a little bit of, it's kind of a best practice insofar as disclosures and when you're required to give them and when you are not. So I think it's completely fine for any commissioner to say at any time that they visited a site. I would hope that people visit sites. We all live in West Hollywood, and there are lots of places that I drive by regularly, but I always endeavor to make site visits when I can. But the true purpose of a disclosure is really just to allow the public to assess whether or not there may be a conflict of interest between your personal or economic interests and the decisions you make as a public official. So in that regard, again, unless you are, a homeowner or a business owner within 500 feet of a site, you don't have to disclose that you visited a site. It's not, doesn't technically fall under a disclosure, but I think you're certainly welcome to give that comment, when you make your, your deliberation. So I just wanted to kind of pipe in there and maybe provide a little bit of guidance on that front. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Are there any other items from commissioners or subcommittee management issues? Commissioner Lombardi.
Thank you. So I realize that I've mentioned this in the last few meetings, but since I will not be at the upcoming meeting on September 2nd, I would like to let you know that yes, I can be available for a special meeting in October on the suggested date. Trying to get the calendar open now. Was it October 28th, Thursday?
It was September 30th.
September 30th. September 30th, yes. So just wanted to let you know that since I won't be in attendance at that meeting. And then the 2nd I mentioned, and then the 9th, which is a SASE meeting, that would be the other date that I am unavailable. I think that we now have 2 items for discussion on that at that SASE meeting. So I wanted to flag that I will not be able to attend.
Thank you, Commissioner Lombardi. Given that now puts us down to 5 on September 2nd, just to be super clear, we want to make sure we have a quorum on September 2nd. We have no other conflicts, out of towns, Virgin Transit to the space. Commissioner Vinson.
I've been in discussion with Ms. Langer about this, but there is an item on the September 2nd agenda that I will have to recuse myself from. So that might, on that item alone, I don't know if you'll have your quorum.
Yes, I note that. And there's an item also on that agenda that Commissioner Caballero will have to recuse himself from, I believe. So that brings us down to 4 on that evening for those 2 projects. So Mr. Rosen, you get to chime in here.
I don't see an issue. 4 reflects a very slim majority of the commission. And so the vote would be among the 4 for commissioners that must recuse on those items.
Commissioner Caballero.
Yeah, I'm going to be out of state, but I want to participate in the September 2nd meeting, but I'm trying to work out with staff how I can get the packets, and we haven't quite resolved that. And I don't feel comfortable reviewing those projects without having the packets, because we all know how important it is to go through those plans. And I don't see it as an issue. Hopefully we can resolve that in the next day.
One would think that we still have an operable FedEx system that could make that happen. I hope. And thanks for the heads up. Anything else? Well, so that's important news to have, so that we would be 5 on 1301 Fairfax, 4 on 1965 Sunset, and 4 on 1040 La Brea.
Real quick, Chair, 9165 Sunset is October 7th.
Oh, right. Okay, so that I hadn't moved that down. Thank you. So really 2 items on the 2nd. Okay. All right. Then it's only La Brea where we would be 4. Okay. Whew. All right. Anything else for subcommittee management? Excellent. There being none, I will call this as an adjournment. The We will adjourn to the regularly scheduled meeting on Thursday, September 2nd, 2021, beginning at 6:30 p.m. And same Zoom time, same Zoom station. All right. Have a good rest of the August. See a couple of you at Design Review next week. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Night.
Night.